They say the devil is in the details, but sometimes so is the solution. Here are 10 cases where a small clue brought a killer to justice. 1. In the town of Bishop, California, a woman named Pamela Cantu reported her husband missing. He'd been gone for 2 weeks without his car, cell phone, or wallet. Pamela told police she hadn't seen him since December 28, 2001, when he left their home to go ice fishing. But something about her story didn't sit right with them. While they were questioning her, officers noticed a small detail, a tiny scratch on her arm. It looked like a recent self-inflicted injury from a cat or a piece of broken glass. But Pamela claimed she'd had it for years. She even showed the officers a faded scar on her leg that she said was caused by the same accident. But the police knew those injuries were too recent. So they searched the house and found blood in the master bedroom. Further tests revealed that the blood was Pamela's, and when they searched the landfill, they found her husband's body. She confessed to murdering him and was sentenced to 26 years in prison. 2. For over 35 years, the murder of 21-year-old Lynette White remained unsolved. The young mother was found dead in her Cardiff home in 1988, having been stabbed more than 20 times. Her killer was never caught, but in 2014, new forensic techniques allowed police to take another look at the case. They found a tiny detail that no one had noticed before, a single hair. It was only 4 centimeters long and had come from someone who was most likely sitting in the victim's living room during the attack. DNA testing revealed that the hair came from a man who was already in prison for another crime. His name was Jeffrey Gafford and he was convicted for Lynette's murder. 3. When police arrived at the crime scene, they found a man slumped over his desk, shot through the heart. The only witness was the victim's wife, Connie, who claimed that she'd been out shopping when the fatal shot was fired. She said that, when she came home, she found her husband dead and this mysterious note pushed under the door. The killer seemingly wanted to send a message, but while the police were dusting for fingerprints, one officer spotted a small clue, a microscopic piece of evidence. It was a piece of sticky tape, just a few millimeters wide, that was stuck to the dead man's shoe. The tape had come from a roll used in a specific brand of cigarettes that Connie was smoking. When questioned, she admitted that she'd killed her husband, citing an affair he'd been having. 4. After 3 men were found brutally murdered in their homes, police suspected a serial killer was on the loose. There was just one problem though. They didn't have much to go on except for a few small clues. The victims had all been killed in different parts of the city, and there didn't seem to be any connection between them. But then detectives spotted a tiny clue. Each man had been killed in a different location, but the killer had used the same cleaning supplies to wipe down surfaces and remove evidence. And when they analyzed the cleaning solution, they discovered a small amount of carpet fiber that connected all 3 crime scenes together. With this tiny clue, police were able to catch the killer. 5. When a woman was found stabbed to death in her apartment, her boyfriend was the prime suspect. But despite having a solid motive and being the only person in the apartment at the time of the murder, he was let off when police couldn't find any evidence to connect him to the crime. For 5 years, the case went cold until a detective took another look at the evidence. He found a tiny clue, a small stain on the victim's shirt that was missed during the initial investigation. It was a small amount of paint that was flaking off the defendant's jacket. When they confronted him, he confessed that he'd been wearing that jacket the day of the murder. 6. A young mother was found strangled in her home, and her husband became the primary suspect. He had a solid alibi though, or so he claimed. He said that at the time of the murder, he was at work and could prove it because he had surveillance footage to back up his story. But while the police were reviewing the footage, they spotted a small clue, a tiny black mark on his cheek. It was a small bruise that hadn't been there the day before. When confronted with the evidence, the man confessed to killing his wife. 7. A young woman was found dead in her apartment after taking a trip to the local grocery store. At first, the police thought it was a robbery gone wrong, but soon realized that nothing had been stolen. They found a few small clues at the scene, which led them to a man with a lengthy criminal history. He matched the description of the killer that the victim's roommate had given them, but he had a rock-solid alibi. He said he was miles away when the young woman was killed. But the police weren't convinced. They took a closer look at the evidence. They found a small clue, a tiny piece of thread that was wrapped around the victim's neck. And when examined under a microscope, it revealed that it was part of a shoelace from the defendant's unique pair of sneakers. 8. Despite being tortured by police, a man refused to confess to a series of murders. He claimed he was innocent, but everyone believed him to be a cold-blooded killer. Only one person didn't believe he was guilty, his father. He insisted his son was innocent and begged the police to keep investigating. And their efforts paid off when a small clue was found. It was a tiny piece of glass that was lodged in the victim's hand. It had come from the lens of a camera and would have been left behind by whoever took a photograph. The killer kept taking pictures of the victim as he beat her, and when forensics analyzed the images, they found that the camera belonged to a now-deceased photographer who'd been in the military with the man who did unconfess. The man later explained that he'd taken the photographs as proof that the victim had made a pass at him, which she had not. 9. A man was convicted of murdering his wife after police found a small clue, a tiny stain on the sole of his shoe that matched the carpet in the bedroom where the crime took place, but he swore his innocence. and 2 days later, thanks to a small clue, he was set free. Police found a tiny strand of hair on the victim's body that didn't match anyone in the family. Further investigation revealed that the hair belonged to a known stalker of the victim. The man was soon arrested and confessed to the crime. 10. After finding a man dead in his home, police immediately suspected his wife. There was a big problem though. She had a rock-solid alibi. She was at work when her husband died, but police knew that alibis could be fake, so they searched the house and found a small clue, a tiny scratch on the window that suggested it had been tampered with. It had been forced open from the outside. But when police questioned the neighbors, they learned that the man had a secret second-floor window that he used to come and go as he pleased. It turned out that the man had committed suicide.